welcome everyone to this regional listening session for the 2023 Farm Bill. Just really thank you so much for joining us here today. And we're going to, before we start, please, if you would please rise. I want to recognize Alexandra Neff well, is Alexandra here? Or if not, the 4-H folks had an event they were finishing up. But so we want to recognize Jeremy Rose from FFA to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Jeremy, thank you so much. If you would remain standing, I want to recognize the FFA State Chaplain, Zaylee Wade of the Albion FFA chapter.
If you would bow your heads and pray with me real quick. Heavenly Father, thank you for the men and the women that serve day after day at our state level and our national level to do the work that not many people are willing to do. Thank you for this listening session, that we may take time to just listen and to take time and just discuss. Lord, bless us with humble hearts and overflow us with patience, and just allow us to listen so that we may take some time to just learn and to just get some work done. And Lord, please just be with everybody who takes the time to serve, and just let us be productive in our doing so that we can continue to do the work that you have set before us, so that we can lead this country in the place that you would like us to go. Lord, we keep all these things in our hearts. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Zaylee, and welcome everybody, and thank you all for joining us for, as we celebrate the 107th Pennsylvania Farm Show. What a legacy. I'm honored to be here today as Chairman of the House Agriculture Committee on Agriculture. Thank you. You know, Pennsylvania's only had 3 members of Congress that chaired the Agriculture Committee. I will say we had the first one, Thomas Forrest, 1820, and then John Dawson, which would have been around 1855. So I have to say we were a little overdue. It's been nearly 170 years, but I just couldn't be happier to start the new year off with all of you here at the Pennsylvania Farm Show and kick off our 2023 Regional Farm Bill listening session here in the Keystone State. Really proud to be here with a lot of great colleagues and friends. I'm going to just acknowledge all those who are here, and then you have a chance. They're going to do some at the end of our listening session. They're going to make some brief remarks at that point, each one. But we've got Austin Scott from Georgia, Doug LaMalfa from California, Mark Alford from Missouri, Shelley Pingree from Maine, Dwight Evans, a Pennsylvanian, Dan Meuser, also from the Keystone State, Mary Miller from Illinois, and Derrick Van Orden from Wisconsin. And I don't think I missed anybody. Oh, that's a good start. That's a great start. You know, as I'm sure many of you know, the current Farm Bill is set to expire this year, the end of September. So we're kind of in crunch time here. Without a doubt, the most important part of the Farm Bill process is to hear from farmers, ranchers, foresters, producers, those in production, quite frankly, all the key stakeholders of rural America. This is an industry that's important not just to those of us who live in rural America. This is probably the most important industry from the standpoint it touches the lives of every American family more times a day than any other industry. And so we have an obligation to get the Farm Bill right. We have an obligation to get it done, not let it expire, and to get it right. And so so we know we have to know what's working, what's not, and where you need the most support. And while this isn't an official Farm Bill listening session, well, it is as far as I'm concerned, but the committee hasn't formed yet. We're a little, that usually doesn't happen until closer to February. So I really appreciate the members that are here being here. It's an important listening session. We simply couldn't pass up the opportunity to hear from so many great agricultural advocates. Now, those of you who know me have likely heard me say this before. When it comes to public policy, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu. And although we're talking ag and we all want to, most of our commodities want to be on the table, that's not what I'm talking about. And you all are at the table today. I'd like to thank you all for joining my esteemed colleagues and I at the table today, and we're ready to trade in our dress shoes for our work boots. We've got a very diverse group of folks today, from West Coast to East Coast, the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, and all the way down south joining me today. And I'm just proud of each and every one and the service that they provide to this nation, and specifically to America's #1 industry of agriculture. Like I've mentioned before, we're here to listen. We have so many experts in the room, but due to time constraints, we only get to hear from a select group this afternoon, about 20 witnesses or so, but there's an opportunity for everybody to give input. I'd like to ask our participants certainly to keep their remarks to about 3 minutes so that we can hear from as many folks as possible. I'd like to assure you this is the first of many opportunities to share your feedback with us, and I look forward to hearing from you all. That said, you can submit your Farm Bill feedback forms that are available here using the QR code on either side of the stage or the printed forms provided by the staff. We're looking for your input in any form that we can get it here. And with that, I'm going to kick things over to my good friend, who I was very pleased last week to get kind of an early insight from our governor-elect that he had agreed to stay on as the Pennsylvania Secretary of Agriculture. This is a man I've known and worked with for a long time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very kind. I need your microphone.
You betcha.
Okay.
Secretary Russell Redding.
Okay, GT, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Pennsylvania, to our friends here and members of Congress who are from around the country. Thank you for being here, and I look at the audience the same to you. Thank you. Welcome to this farm show of 107 years. We are proud of the show and really pleased to have you here to see it. You each have your own stories in your states, and we're pleased to have this one here as a backdrop to talk about the Farm Bill. I want to congratulate Congressman Thompson. I mean, I think he's laid it out, right? You're talking about a pretty select group of leaders from PA who have been chair and have to reach all the way back to pre-Civil War, sort of a statement in and of itself. But we are very proud of him and confident in his both leadership and his interests in agriculture. He has seen it across Pennsylvania. It's diverse. I also know he's a great listener. He's a leader and somebody who is very passionate about making sure that folks are at the table and a part of the conversation. I think that's a great place to start, and a lot of responsibility, of course, in this critical year. In some respects, this farm show is like the Farm Bill, right? It's diverse. It's got a lot of stuff packed inside of it. It's consumers, it's producers. It has got mushrooms. It's got cattle. It's got open, all this open space and conservation. It also has a lot of expectation, right? And I think that is what, as we head into this Farm Bill, there's a lot of expectations, not just from the Pennsylvania interest, but I admire the farm bills have passed where you have to find this equilibrium, between all of this amazing agriculture between the San Joaquin Valley and the Susquehanna Valley, right? That is incredibly difficult to do, right? And somehow it comes together. Proud of it. It is so important to us in Pennsylvania. We could not do what we do in the Department of Agriculture as a state ag industry without the support of our Farm Bill. It's that critical, right? It's about risk management and conservation, food nutrition. Every one of those titles is there because it's important. So we look forward to the conversation today. We're going to listen as well. We are proud to be a state with a state-level farm bill, and the first in the nation several years ago, that fills in and around the federal farm bill and complements that in so many ways, but important to leverage, but only possible because there is a federal farm bill. So welcome to all, and thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, thank you so much. And thank you for hosting us here at the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex that's obviously operated by the Department of Agriculture, and for your staff here at the Farm Show Complex that have just been Sharon and her team, which have been just absolutely amazing. Invite our speakers to, we're going to be using the podiums, and so I'm going to go back to my wrestling days. I'll tell you who's on deck. How's that? So that we can move. Not that I ever wrestled at the Pennsylvania Farm Show. I wish I'd have been that good to be here for those states. That's not me. So it's and so just a reminder, if we keep as close to 3 minutes, and then I think somebody's going to signal me when we have 1 minute, 1 minute left, and I'll just give a little cue like that. When I get the cue, I'll share it. All right, and whenever we've gone over that 1 minute, I just wherever you're at, just kind of finish that thought. We're certainly the written testimony. You can provide as much written testimony as what you like. I promise you, will read, digest, and put it to good use. So I want to invite the dean of the Pennsylvania State University, Penn State, the dean of agriculture science, Dean Roush, and on deck we will have the executive director for the Pennsylvania Dairymen's Association, David Smith.
Thank you very much, Congressman Thompson, for inviting me to participate today. I want to focus on what is the most important issue for Penn State and the land grant system nationwide. During the last 47 years, I have been employed at 5 land grant universities, including the University of California, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Cornell, and now Penn State. And I visited at least 20 more. And in that time, I personally witnessed the gradual degradation of the nation's public sector research and teaching facilities. Over the last several years, a national study of capital infrastructure at colleges and schools of agriculture has quantified this decay. Summarized in a 10-page report, the total deferred maintenance is over $11.5 billion. Between 2015 and 2020 alone, the problem grew by 37%. As noted in the report, a nation that controls its food controls its destiny. However, investments by our competitors are growing rapidly. In 2016 alone, China outspent the United States public investment in agricultural research by $3 billion. Now, I've personally seen evidence of this. I visited 8 of the leading agricultural universities in China during 2008 and 2014. The competition is real, and I'm convinced that it's not just about feeding China. It's about winning the world agricultural market, both in technology and in commodities. There's also a huge investment in European countries and others. U.S. investment now is essential. The aforementioned report shows that an immediate, targeted, and substantial investment of $11.5 billion is needed for the renewal of the existing agricultural research and education facilities. Much or most of this investment will be in rural America, where the research facilities reside, stimulating job creation and economies. Agricultural research investments result in about $10 to $20 in benefit for every dollar that's spent on research. Estimates are that such an investment will have a long-term economic growth implications and provide an estimated 200,000 more jobs. There is no time to lose. The current Farm Bill already includes the Research Facilities Act. Penn State and land-grant universities nationwide urge the reauthorization of the Research Facilities Act in the 2023 Farm Bill and encourages adequate funding. The challenge calls out for mandatory funding language. Thank you, Chairman Thompson, and I look forward to working with you this year.
Dean Roush, thank you so much. Thanks for your leadership. We are. There you go. All right, now on deck will be Shawn Wolfinger from Horizon Farm Credit, and just proud to reintroduce a great leader for the basically our largest commodity here in Pennsylvania, and a very important commodity throughout the state for the dairy industry. The executive director of the Pennsylvania Dairymen Association, David Smith.
Thank you, Congressman. Again, Dave Smith. My family operates a 5th-generation dairy farm in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania. My son's there full-time. I wear several hats with the Dairymen's Association and also with Horizon Farm Credit. I'd like to, we'll be very, very respectful for your time and highlight just 4 items of interest for the dairy industry in Pennsylvania. First of all, as many of you know, workforce is a vital issue in the agriculture industry and in the dairy industry. That importance of a reliable workforce on our dairy farms is absolutely essential. It's vital to that we have an essential worker program be developed to fully complement the needs of dairy farms with a year-round workforce. Current programs were designed for seasonal workforce schedules, and production on our dairy farm continues daily throughout the season. So that's very important. The second issue that I would like to talk about is the importance of crop insurance programs and the current dairy margin program that are very vital to the dairy farm families across Pennsylvania. The Dairy Margin Protection Program has been an important risk management program tool to the Pennsylvania dairy farm families that have participated. And since the program began in January of 2019, an average of 1,662 Pennsylvania dairies have participated in that program. This will continue to be an important tool if kept in the next farm bill. And supplemental DMC was a step in the right direction for updating production history, but dairy farmers across Pennsylvania and the United States need the opportunity to better reflect their current production by reestablishing production history based on current production status. Also, with increased commodity feed costs, the $9.50 margin cap may no longer provide the protection it did 5 years ago. That margin cap should be reevaluated to make sure it provides the correct coverage. Lastly, the average herd size across the United States has increased to over 300 cows per farm. In order for the average U.S. dairy farm to be able to cover virtually all their production, the Tier 1 production cap should be reevaluated and an increase should be considered. These are three factors that could make a good program even better. The next item I'd like to address revolves around the federal milk marketing order reform issues. Each time dairy markets do not behave as the industry would like and milk prices decline, there is an inevitable push to have meaningful federal milk marketing order reform. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated some of the FMMO issues that led to what many industry personnel and dairy farmers believe was disorderly marketing. One of the main premises of the federal milk marketing order system was to ensure orderly marketing and for dairy farms, and many folks in the dairy industry believe that this premise failed and has led to a loss of dairy farms across the country. While the last farm bill attempted to address Class 1 milk pricing with the best intentions, the change in the Class 1 price equation made in May of 2019 led to lost revenue at the farm level during much of 2020 and 21. While the federal government provided significant aid through CPAC and other programs, a longer-term solution is needed, and several dairy organizations are currently working through what some of the long-term solutions may look like. Our request right now is that rather than addressing the FMMO reform through legislative and farm bill processes, that the industry be allowed to address the federal milk marketing order reform through the existing USDA hearing process. Although this is perhaps a more lengthy process, the extra time allows the industry professionals to examine each proposal more thoroughly, leading to a smaller chance of negative, unintended consequences, as was seen with the Class 1 price equation change authorized by the 2018 Farm Bill. The last thing I would like to talk about, I would be remiss to speak about the issues of whole milk and the allowing whole milk in other areas, schools and the charitable food systems. There's one issue that our dairy farmers across this country can agree on, and I know you are very interested in moving forward with reform in many areas that take a lot of negotiations, and as the congressman says, sausage making. Allowing whole milk in schools and the charitable food systems is something that all our dairy farmers can agree on. With that, I appreciate your attention, and I am very thankful for the invitation. Thank you.
David, thank you so much, and thanks to those dairymen for those great milkshakes too. Much appreciated. No better marketing than a farm show milkshake, right? The dairy industry. I'm going to be reintroducing Shawn here. On deck will be Lindsey Shapiro with the Pasa Sustainable. Shawn Wolfinger with Horizon Farm Credit. Shawn, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson, members of Congress. My name is Shawn Wolfinger, and I own and operate with my father a forestry consulting company in northern Pennsylvania. I also serve as chairman of the board of Horizon Farm Credit. We've submitted written remarks, but I'd like to briefly highlight a few key points. Horizon Farm Credit is part of the nationwide farm credit system. We serve more than 22,000 customers in 100 counties in Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, and Delaware. And our loan volume exceeds $6 billion. As we look to the next farm bill, I want to highlight 3 areas of importance to our customers in the association: crop insurance, conservation, and loan limits for FSA guaranteed loans. Crop insurance remains agriculture's best risk mitigation tool. It's imperative that Congress protects a strong and effective federal crop insurance program. Of particular interest to our region is trying to protect poultry growers against losses incurred as a result of highly pathogenic avian influenza. As you know, the USDA has an indemnity program for owners of flocks that were depopulated due to HPAI. However, there's no similar federal support available for poultry farmers who found themselves in control zones and were negatively impacted. Our hope is that the farm to bill discussions will yield a solution to this gap in risk mitigation. Secondly, conservation and climate will undoubtedly be part of farm bill discussions. And Farm Credit believes that agriculture is part of the solution to mitigating the impacts of a changing climate. As you look at the intersection of agriculture and environment, our ask is that any programs provide for voluntary, incentive-based tools for farmers and forest owners, promote private sector solutions, recognize the need for additional research, and not require that any decision on agricultural lending be based on farmers adopting certain conservation practices. Like many farm credit associations, we work with USDA's Farm Service Agency on guaranteed loans. FSA caps the amount that will guarantee a farm ownership or operating loan at just over $2 million. In an extremely capital-intensive industry like agriculture, this limit can create a barrier to entry for young and beginning producers and reduce the efficacy of the program. We support increasing FSA loan limits to reflect increasing costs of land, equipment, and other inputs. On behalf of Horizon Farm Credit's Board of Directors, members, and staff, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective. We look forward to working with you and your colleagues on the next farm bill and stand ready to help in any way that we can. Thank you.
Shawn, thank you so much. Next, we will be hearing from Lindsay, and on deck will be Joe Luther for the Pennsylvania PA Central Food Bank. And now my pleasure once again to introduce Lindsey Shapiro from Pasa Sustainable Agriculture.
Thank you, Congressman. I operate a veggie farm in Berks County and work as Pasa Sustainable Agriculture's Farm Bill campaign organizer. I've spent the last few months talking with farmers in Pasa's network to understand what's working on their farms and what needs improvement. It's been encouraging to find that many farmers are engaging with a range of USDA programs in meaningful ways. NRCS offices are helping farmers meet their conservation and climate goals through diverse EQIP projects, from irrigation at Hoffman Appalachian Farm to a compost pad at Love and Fresh Flowers. We hope the next Congress continues to provide robust support for NRCS staff capacity so farmers get the help they need at the county level. Conservation Technical Assistance Funding has embraced the power of farmer-to-farmer learning through mentorship programs like the one administered by PA Grazing Lands Coalition and Pasa. Our farmers want to see more farmer-led training initiatives because that's how farmers learn best. Andy Flinchbaugh Farms got a lot of value out of the pandemic cover crop program. We'd love to see a similar initiative find a permanent home in the next Farm Bill. Farmers like Teddy Moynihan at Plowshare Farms are doing innovative work with SARE dollars. And even in Teddy's case, even using that funding to create new on-farm jobs. And on my own farm, we wouldn't be where we are without FSA loans and the income we receive through SNAP benefits and senior FMMP. But for every farmer's success story, there's another farmer who has found USDA programs inflexible and unaccountable to their needs. The next generation of farmers, like those who participate in Pasa's apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs, can't get the land and capital they need to start their businesses. Revising farmland conservation programs and improving access to credit are good first steps. And when we revive the Civilian Conservation Corps and the next Farm Bill, those future farmers are going to need support too. Nina Berryman at Weaver's Way Farm was excited to learn about the potential for cover crop funding through the Conservation Stewardship Program until she dove into the paperwork requirements. The $1,500 annual payment does not justify that for many small farms. That payment amount needs to be raised significantly in the next Farm Bill. Small farms like Weaver's Way are feeding their communities, but their scale and crop diversity oftentimes put them at a disadvantage when it comes to accessing conservation programs and farm safety net programs. And for Black farmers, Indigenous farmers, and other farmers of color, those issues of access and relevance are just exacerbated. Clarity and, clarity and transparency need to be priorities in 2023. Jay Christoffel, a fallen aspen farm, couldn't get NRCS support for his silver pasture project, even though a federal standard exists. Agroforestry initiatives need to be incorporated into classic conservation programs so that individual states can't leave farmers like Jake behind. And every single livestock farmer I've spoken with has talked about their frustrations with slaughter capacity and the challenges of working with USDA inspected facilities. So through these stories and so many others, I hope we can find pragmatic solutions in federal farm policy, like those suggested in the Cover Act and the Agriculture Resilience Act. Farmers in Pasa's network are growing nutritious food, we are creating good jobs, and we're conserving our national resources, and we would like some more help. So I really appreciate this opportunity today. Thank you all for being here.
Lindsay, thank you so much. On deck will be the Honorable Matt Gobler from the Pennsylvania Forest Products Association. And now I'm pleased to introduce good friend and leader Joe Arthur with the Pennsylvania Central Pennsylvania Food Bank.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson. And thank you, Ranking Member Scott. Congratulations to the Bulldogs. And thank you all members. And Representative Evans, Representative Meuser, thank you also for your work on food security right here in Pennsylvania. Much appreciated. I have one really key point towards the end, but I'm going to say it up front in case Chairman Thompson gives me the red card. And that point is this: the food crisis is not over. And right now, in my work, we fear that it might be deepening. So I provided written testimony, so I'd like to make a few additional comments. Back in 2018, we had the pleasure of working with Chairman Thompson and also with then Agriculture Secretary Perdue, doing listening sessions for the 2018 Farm Bill. Little did we know that we would have a pandemic and face what we all faced in the last several years. But now, beyond the pandemic, we have the crisis of inflation that we're facing, as well as other food system challenges. And that's where we get to the crisis. We're as busy now as we were, almost as busy now as we were at the height of the pandemic. In fact, in 2022, we distributed more food, 20% more food than we did in 2019, before the pandemic, and much more than we did last year, so we're on the rise. And that's true around the country for Feeding America food banks. I'm proud that during the pandemic and continuing, our food bank team did not miss a single day of operations. We made sure that nobody in central Pennsylvania went hungry. We depended on our community, but also on our government partners. We depended on the 116th and 117th Congresses. We depended on the Trump administration and the Biden administration. We depended on our Commonwealth and our local leaders and our county leaders, all working together to make sure that nobody went hungry. The pandemic tested us. The crisis now is testing us, and we're still witnessing that too many Americans are not able to afford basic needs, including food. Whether in the midst of the pandemic or in the face of the current trends that we're facing, programs like SNAP, WIC, TFAP, and others are a lifeline for people to have access to healthy food. They're also a lifeline for food banks to strengthen our partnerships with local farms. These programs invest in the security of people in need, but also in farmers when markets are disrupted and groceries bills are out of reach. The pandemic and current pressures on the economy have been a proving ground for our nation's farm and nutrition programs. I hope the committee will consider all of the lessons that we've learned over the last 3 years. This farm bill is a chance to codify those items that worked really well and maybe correct those that haven't. We still face supply chain disruption, high inflation, geopolitical conflict, and climate change impacts. Our Feeding America network around the country is as busy as our food bank. And I'll say it once again, the food crisis is not over, and we fear it may be deep. So thank you to the committee members. Chairman Thompson, thank you so much for this honor.
Joe, thank you very much, and thank you for the work of your team, too, and all those volunteers. It's an incredible network of helping neighbors in need that are struggling because of financial issues, inflation, whatever else there might be there. Just want to encourage everybody, all of our speakers, microphone's pretty sensitive, so crowd in on them, lean in on the microphones, and we'll get a little better volume. So now following Mr. Gobler, we got Elizabeth Hinkel with the Pennsylvania Corn Growers, and now I'm pleased to introduce the Honorable Matt Gobler, who is representing the Pennsylvania Forest Products Association.
Good afternoon, Chairman Thompson, distinguished members of Congress, fellow panelists, and guests. My name is Matt Gobler. I'm the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Forest Products Association. With over $39 billion in economic impact, forest products are Pennsylvania's largest single agricultural sector. Our partnerships with conservation organizations show how forest management improves wildlife, habitat, and forest health. We proudly offer both an economic and environmental win-win. With these factors in mind, we'd like to offer you the following input as you kick off your efforts on the 2023 Federal Farm Bill. The USDA's Foreign Agricultural Service connects American commodities with foreign markets. Investment in export promotion programs such as the American Hardwood Export Council, AHEC, will ensure continuing American leadership in sustainable hardwood exports. In addition, support for hardwood projects in the Wood Innovation Grant Program will help us to advance with technology. Regarding federal lands, please push to increase the U.S. Forest Service's capacity to manage its resources and meet regional timber harvest objectives. We urge continued funding for state and local partnership programs, such as the Good Neighbor Authority. From an environmental perspective, wood products are far superior to non-wood alternatives. Because trees grow by absorbing carbon from the atmosphere, wood products have a carbon-negative footprint, underscored when wood is substituted in place of carbon-positive materials. When mature trees are harvested, it makes room for faster-growing young trees, therefore accelerating the rate of carbon absorption. In the Farm Bill, please work to include hardwood and softwood products in federal carbon accounting systems. We need databases showing the carbon storage capacity of long-lived wood products, as well as publications from the U.S. Forest Service to educate the public about the environmental benefits of wood products. We urge caution regarding the oversimplified strategy of delayed harvest contained in certain carbon credit programs, as well as recent efforts calling for the preservation of so-called old-growth forests across the landscape. Different forest types require different management strategies. One-size-fits-all approaches will lead to unintended consequences and forest degradation. The Society of American Foresters recently wrote that the science does not lead us to conclude that forest preservation is the solution for carbon storage. Nowhere else in agriculture would it make sense to preserve mature crops. Think of corn, think of wheat. It does not make sense for trees either, especially in Pennsylvania's hardwood forests. In conducting sustainable harvests, we must utilize low-grade wood products to optimize beneficial regrowth. Promoting wood-based biomass heating and power systems is a great way to promote environmental stewardship on the ground while shifting to economically competitive carbon-neutral fuels. Such efforts will elevate markets that support forest health while strengthening rural communities. The entire equation fits together. Trees plus wood plus markets equals clean air and water, improved wildlife habitat, and good jobs. While some forests face the threat of wildfires, others face invasive species and non-native forest pests. Left unmanaged, overstocked forests will burn, and over-mature forests will lose biodiversity and resiliency. Sustainable management through harvesting will help in both cases. Please push the U.S. Forest Service to prioritize invasive species treatment in addition to efforts to address high-risk fire zones. In conclusion, I encourage you to continue your collaborative work with our national level partners, including the Federal Forest Resource Coalition, the National Alliance of Forest Owners, and the Hardwood Federation. Thank you once again for this opportunity. I look forward to working with you through the process.
Matt, thank you so much for your leadership with our forest products industry. Next, on deck will be Duff George with JBS, and now we'll hear from Elizabeth Hinkel with the Pennsylvania Corn Growers.
Thank you, Congressman Thompson. Thank you for having me here today. I am a full-time farmer. Along with my husband and his family, we operate a 2,000-acre hog and grain operation in western Schuylkill County. And I'm also president of the Corn Growers Association. So I'm here today to represent our state's corn growers. In many states, you will hear much about corn and grain farming, but in Pennsylvania, sometimes it is the forgotten giant in the corner. The number one crop in Pennsylvania is corn. Acres in production and net income make it by far the number one grain commodity. Our country needs a safe and affordable food supply. The base of food security in this country is corn. Corn gives us our homegrown renewable resource in ethanol. The 10% of ethanol blended in our gasoline not only makes emissions cleaner, but it stretches our gas budget as ethanol is consistently cheaper than gasoline. Locally grown corn is the base ingredient for our livestock. Pennsylvania grows and feeds 67 million chickens, 2.2 million hogs, and over 1 million head of dairy and beef. On a normal growing year, we will produce 160 million bushels, while our corn demand is 180 million, making us a corn deficit state. In 2022, Pennsylvania had a very serious drought affecting approximately 50% of corn acres. Our corn production fell 30% down to 120 million bushels. Net farm income lost due to the lower yields was $370 million, and that is just the losses in corn. Crop insurance provided a safety net for many growers to be able to stay in business. The number one concern for the Pennsylvania corn growers in the 2023 Farm Bill is crop insurance. The Farm Bill needs to have a robust and forward-thinking crop insurance program. We feel that there are ways that crop insurance can be updated and be more inviting so that farmers can see the value of participating in the program. Thank you for your previous attention to improving insurance for Pennsylvania growers. In conversations with farmers from all parts of the Commonwealth, I have learned that the costs of the program versus the potential returns have not been attractive enough to bring many over to use insurance. Can it be made more affordable? Currently, only 65% of our nearly 1 million corn acres are insured. We hope that the 2023 version will be more inviting for growers of all ages to participate. A second point of discussion, particularly with our sister corn grower associations in the Corn Belt states, will revolve around increased emphasis on trade and conservation programs. We support both of these programs. Pennsylvania has been a leader in conservation for years, and we appreciate any support the Farm Bill will give us as we continue to practice being good stewards of the land. The Farm Bill trade programs have significantly helped our Midwestern friends. Finally, there are some portions of the agriculture risk coverage and price loss coverage commodity program that could be improved and updated, including program yields and base acres. Young farmers starting out would like to have more adequate and current coverage through these programs. We all appreciate your time and interest in keeping our food supply safe and financially viable while being affordable to all consumers. Overall, the safety net, particularly crop insurance, is crucial to the well-being of our agriculture way of life. Thank you.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for your leadership. On deck will be Michael Kovach with the Pennsylvania Farmers Union, and now we'll hear a perspective from one of our processors, because you can't have production without processing. And so pleased to welcome to the microphone Duff George with JBS.
Thank you. Congressman, Chairman Thompson, and distinguished members of the U.S. House Agriculture Committee, thank you for the opportunity to join you today to discuss considerations in the upcoming Farm Bill reauthorization. My name's Duff George. I serve as Producer Relations Manager for JBS at the Souderton, Pennsylvania plant, which is recognized as regional beef plant for JBS. JBS is a leading producer of beef, pork, and chicken through our majority interest in Pilgrim's Pride. We employ 67,000 members across the U.S. and contribute millions of dollars a day into the U.S. economy. At JBS, we strive to create a future for our team members and the projects through our Hometown Strong program, building recreation centers, improving access to affordable housing, refurbishing schools and parks. In Souderton, Pennsylvania, we have allocated $1.5 million for community projects, including funding to purchase a food truck for the Montgomery County Anti-Hunger Network. Souderton plant specifics. JBS US divides our beef business into two business units, fed and regional beef. I work in the regional beef business, which includes plants that are strategically located to population centers. Most of these plants rely heavily on the dairy industries for throughput in those plants. The Souderton plant is roughly 100 miles east and is the largest beef processing facility east of Chicago. The Souderton plant is a single shift plant, processing, distribution center, and warehouse. It was originally constructed in 1880 and purchased by JBS USA in 2008. Approximately 500,000 head of cattle are processed a year at that facility. We utilize a wide array of purchasing tools to support the facility, including auctions, live cash market, dressed, grading yield, and forward contracting. We have cattle buying stations in Greencastle, Pennsylvania, as well as Denver, Pennsylvania. Our average starting salary of our team members is $20 per hour, compared to the Pennsylvania minimum wage of $7.25 per hour. We realize there would be no JBS without our nation's farmers and ranchers. As such, we support maintaining tools in the Farm Bill that help producers fund conservation projects, manage risk through insurance, indemnity programs, disaster programs for livestock, as well as disease prevention programs. We also believe there's an opportunity to better leverage public and private partnerships to utilize scarce dollars going to farmers and rural communities. Crucial infrastructure elements such as childcare, particularly in rural communities, and housing remain a significant barrier for large manufacturing industries such as ourselves. We have invested in these areas across the country through our Hometown Strong program and would welcome a discussion in rural development, the rural development title, on how public and private funds could be better leveraged to maximize limited resources. As this committee begins the important work of writing the next Farm Bill, it is critical the food supply chain works together to address the needs of farmers, the communities we call home. JBS appreciates the opportunity to share our perspectives and stands ready to serve as a resource to the committee through the Farm Bill process. Thank you, Chairman, Chairman.
Thank you so much. On deck will be Alexandra Kozak of the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. And now I'm pleased to welcome to the microphone Michael Kovach of the Pennsylvania Farmers Union.
Thank you, Congressman and Chairman Thompson. Thank you very much for your kind consideration in including me in this today. Secretary Redding, welcome back again, sir. Glad to have you back on board. The first Farm Bill listening session with Chairman GT, that's awesome. My name is Michael Kovach, and I'm a pasture-based multiple species regenerative farmer from Mercer County, PA, which is pretty much Ohio from here. To say that a lot has happened since the last Farm Bill would obviously be a gross understatement. The disruptions from the pandemic, increasingly extreme weather, too little water in the Mississippi River at the most inopportune time, war in the Ukraine, and too many other factors to name have one after the next shown a very bright spotlight on the fallibility of our highly consolidated, too many eggs and too few baskets food system. The ground from which it's grown and the ability of the folks who've fed America throughout history to continue to do so into the future. Each of these things can be tied back to one thing, and that's soil health. Since the passage of the first Farm Bill some 90 years ago, its focus has been on the increasing agricultural commodity production. That's important, and it's very hard to argue with. However, the unintended end result of that and the subsequent farm bills is apparent in the massive drop in the number of family farms in the United States, the extreme consolidation with our food system, soils on life support, and the lack of resilience in the face of any of the aforementioned disruptions. Never mind whatever comes down the pike next. With all that in mind, we hope that the committee will consider making the focus of the coming Farm Bill resilience. Resilience. Resilience to a changing climate, supply disruptions, transportation disruption, labor disruption, and whatever that next thing is. We firmly believe that the key to all these things is a renewed and robust focus on soil health and initiatives aimed at decentralizing and re-regionalizing our food system. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. Besides my position as Farmers Union's president, I'm also on the steering committee of Regenerate America, which is focused on getting more of this stuff into the Farm Bill. Thanks very much. Thanks for everybody for coming.
Michael, thank you very much. Thanks for all your leadership and your work. Much appreciated. On deck will be Joe Caldwell with Georgie Mushrooms. And now I'm pleased to welcome to the microphone to the podium Alexandra Kozak with the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson. Can you hear me? Chairman Thompson and distinguished members of the panel, thank you for holding this session in my home state and for giving me the opportunity to testify today. My name is Alex Kozak, and I'm the Pennsylvania Field Manager for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. TRCP works with our 61 partner organizations to advance bipartisan policy that guarantees all Americans quality places to hunt and fish. My work here in the Commonwealth focuses on advocating for conservation approaches that combine improved outdoor recreation with responsible management of public and private lands. I'm also a lifelong Pennsylvanian, and growing up in rural Southwest PA, as well as traveling extensively as a former district director in Congress, solidified for me how critical agricultural conservation is for our state and across the country. Before I go further, I want to express my gratitude to Chairman Thompson for his work in introducing and passing the Chronic Wasting Disease Research and Management Act last year. The bill, which passed prior to the end of last Congress, is a first of its kind in its comprehensive approach to addressing the spread of CWD, and deer hunters across PA and nationally are grateful for your championing this effort. Hunters and anglers, just like farmers and ranchers, know that policies which lead to long-term food and fiber production, farm and ranch profitability, strong rural communities, and rural quality of life are the same policies that lead to clean water, resilient agro-ecosystems, and abundant wildlife. One of the most important ways that Congress can support all of these goals is through voluntary incentive-based Farm Bill conservation title. These Title II programs are effective, time-tested, and farmer-approved, and at the same time support the $862 billion per year outdoor recreation industry, $58 billion of that here in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, these programs are continually oversubscribed, with only 60% of applications from farmers being funded each year. Currently, TRCP's Agriculture and Wildlife Working Group, which includes 25 of the major hunting and fishing and conservation groups in the country, is finalizing a consensus Farm Bill platform. This platform will lay out improvements to the programs including the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, which gives farmers a tool to reduce erosion on their land while creating excellent wildlife habitat. The economic benefits resulting from the tens of millions of enrolled acres in CRP are multiplied in local sporting stores, meat processors, gas stations, and diners. The program needs reforms to ensure landowner interest and continued habitat benefits for years to come. The Voluntary Public Access Habitat Incentive Program provides federal match funding for state walk-in access programs. These programs that incentivize hunting on private lands are essential to introducing new hunters and have an economic return of 7-to-1 in some communities. Hunters and anglers across the country are calling for Congress to invest heavily in VPA HIP in the 2023 bill. The Regional Conservation Partnership Program, RCPP, has a huge potential for locally led conservation work, but currently is hamstrung by administrative barriers in project application, contracting, and reporting. The 2023 bill needs to streamline the program to ensure it continues to be a valued tool for partner-led conservation. Finally, EQIP works well for farmers and is great soil, water, and a wildlife conservation tool. We can make it better by providing USDA with stronger guidance on how to identify and score practices that most benefit wildlife and truly satisfy the intent of the 10% wildlife set aside. I ask that you and your colleagues work to support and improve these programs and the entire conservation title in the upcoming Farm Bill. Thank you again for your attention and for the opportunity to speak today, and we look forward to working with all of you in the coming months.
Alex, thank you so much. Thanks for the kind words on the CWD bill. And I bring you good news as well. As that was passed, we also passed the Sustains Act, which opens up a public-private partnership to support those using non-taxpayer dollars, actually, those conservation programs, those ones that are under or oversubscribed. On deck will be Kay Rensel with the U.S. Sweet Potato and U.S. Peach Councils, and now pleased to hear from Joe Caldwell with Georgie Mushrooms.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Caldwell, president of Georgie Mushroom, growing mushrooms in Berks County, Congressman Meuser's area. I want to thank Chairman Thompson and his staff for organizing this Farm Bill kickoff listening lesson and inviting me to participate on behalf of the mushroom industry. 1928, Pietro Georgie started growing mushrooms in a small little town of Blandon, Pennsylvania. 95 years later, his grandson continues to own and operate Georgie Mushrooms, who along with our dozen independent contract growers provide more mushrooms than anyone in North America. The U.S. mushroom farmers produce about 900 million pounds of mushrooms every year, valued at over $1.3 billion. We provide 21,000 jobs with a payroll of just under $1 billion. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania produces 64% of all mushrooms grown in the United States. Most of the U.S. mushroom farms, like Georgie Mushrooms, are family-owned farms and operated by third and fourth and some even fifth generation families. Mushrooms are a healthy food, low in fat, sodium, and calories, and a source of high quality protein, vitamin D, multiple B vitamins, and other important nutrients. Mushrooms have a great sustainability story, taking the waste products from some of the commodities that you're hearing about here and composting that into a food source to grow a healthy food for America. And then returning that back to the soil to sequester carbon back into the ground. In alignment with our partner, Specialty Crop Industries and all farmers, the mushroom industry looks to the 2023 Farm Bill to support competitiveness, sustainability and climate adaptation, nutrition, research and innovation, and consumer education. Specialty crops, and especially mushrooms, are uniquely perishable and sensitive to shifts in growing situations due to operational challenges, transportation challenges, climate challenges, all of which impact the supply chain. Across farms and packing facilities, the mushroom industry has experienced an overall cost increase of over 20% in just this past year, including but not limited to compost raw materials, corrugated boxes, tills, utilities, energy, fuel sources, freight, insurance, labor cost. Competition for inputs for mushroom compost and casing materials is greater than ever, with many nurseries, home gardeners, and hobbyists using much of the same growing medium, driving exponential inflation for those products. The cost of just the farm ingredients have increased 20 to 25% just the past 2 years. The labor shortage, mentioned earlier by our brethren in the dairy industry, persists at a shortage of 25% across the industry on any given day. We continue to work with legislators like you all to advocate for a reliable access to labor through immigration legislation and are working with partners like International Fresh Produce Association, U.S. Compost Council in addressing supply chain and input issues. As I mentioned to Congressman Thompson many times over the last several years, available agricultural labor is and continues to be the #1 challenge for our business now and into the future. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Jim, thank you so much. On deck will be Frank Stolfus for the Pennsylvania Cattlemen, and now just honored to invite to the podium Kay Rensel with the United States Sweet Potato and U.S. Peach Councils.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Is it on?
Can you turn that up? Can you
Can you turn this up?
raise the volume a little bit on that microphone because
I
she's
can
leaning
shout a
into
little,
it.
but I don't think that would end well. Move into it? Oh, I have
There you
to
go.
actually almost consume the microphone. Well, good afternoon, Chairman Thompson, members of the House Ag Committee, Secretary Redding. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to provide you with a Farm Bill impact statement on behalf of two of the specialty crop industries that I work with, peaches and sweet potatoes. And if I do recall correctly, peaches in some way, shape, or form are grown in every state represented here at the table. So thank you. But I want to focus today my comments on just 3 of the titles. They are all very important to us. We have strong exports. We have lots of issues that impact the various segments. But today I'm going to focus on research, crop insurance, and the nutrition side. Sweet potato farmers, as well as peach farmers, are all primarily small family farms. There's a few larger operations scattered around the country, but they do represent different social, ethnic backgrounds, different genders, and are located primarily in the rural areas of the country. They are very proud to be able to produce for America, you, I, and the world such nutritious products to place on the tables. But they do and have been facing dramatic increased cost throughout the past year that has inhibited their ability to make a fair profit, let alone the need to fund very needed research. I want to share with you just 2 examples of research that are ongoing right now, and this is just the type of research that we benefit from. In the peach industry, we have a very serious fungus called peach armorillia root fungus. The fungus is so serious that it affects not only peaches, but all other stone fruits as well. And right now, the research is in place to try to find soil management practices that may, and I stress may, mitigate the impact to the trees. I can tell you that personally, thousands of acres have had to be removed in the state of Georgia. Imagine that, the peach state, and they've had to pull them because this fungus is in the ground. So we want to try to reduce the loss of orchards across the country. In sweet potatoes, we have a pest that is known as the guava root knot nematode. It is a highly pathogenic and invasive species that has made its way, sadly, into North Carolina, the heart of America's sweet potato production region. North Carolina grows about approximately 70% of all of the nation's commercially produced sweet potatoes. Of that, they export about 30%. So this particular pest has a broad host range, including vegetable crops, ornamental plants, and weeds. Yes, weeds. The impact is that it provides severe damage to the sweet potato. It makes it unmarketable, makes it unprocessable, if I can use that word. It can't be used because of the impact to the potato, and it also creates an early breakdown process, so it no longer is marketable on the shelf. Again, they're working to try to find a means to address this particular pest. So research is vital to our future, just in these 2 examples, and we thrive through what we like to consider a public-private partnership, grants from USDA in collaboration with the various universities around the country to address these issues. I saw the red flag, so I'll move very quickly through the title, nutrition title. We are very proud to be able to provide nutritious products in frozen peach cups, sweet potato fries, canned peaches and sweet potatoes, and now even fresh peaches and fresh sweet potatoes to the various feeding programs of the USDA. These have been received with overwhelming success and appreciation by the recipients. But I want to also reinforce that there is a very delicate balance between fresh and processed. Both sides of the industry are dependent upon one another. So therefore, we do request that all forms of fruits and vegetables be considered. And the balance that exists there supports reducing food waste and spoilage, because while it may not be a fresh market crop, it may be something that can be used in processing. And it also stretches those federal dollars. They go further and they provide for more American jobs. And finally, just very quickly, crop insurance. You've heard other experts talk about it. Crop insurance is vital to our peach industry. They have one opportunity to grow a crop every year. It's not like they can replant those fields with anything else. So we view crop insurance as a protect and preserve measure. We would like to ask that this be kept affordable, because it doesn't pay for the full value of the crop, but what it does do with the producer investment and then the crop insurance, it does help pay for some of the input costs. We will provide you with more detailed comments. We appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Much appreciated. On deck will be Sherry Bunting with the Pennsylvania Dairy Advisory Committee. And now I'm pleased, honored to welcome to the podium Frank Stolfus with the Pennsylvania Cattlemen.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson, for this opportunity for cattle producers to have a voice in a session, listening session like this. And thanks to the rest of the representatives here today for taking their time to come and listen to us here in Pennsylvania. I come from a little county just down the road here called Lancaster County. You may have heard of that. It's probably one of the counties in the nation that has the most livestock production in quantity than any other county in this nation. So I'm talking to you today about a subject that's very close to me and very close to us where we're standing here today. Briefly, I'd like to speak on 4 points that we feel from the National Cattlemen's Beef Association and the Pennsylvania Cattlemen's Association that should be included in the 2023 Farm Bill. These points are areas that need government assistance because of the economic impact it has right at the farm gate. I would also like to mention one item that we believe doesn't need to be in the Farm Bill. Isn't that refreshing? First, let's look at strengthening risk management programs. They provide producers with added protection against weather events and price declines. Secondly, supporting disaster recovery programs is a key. That helps producers return to normal operations following adverse weather, attacks by predators, and extreme conditions like droughts and wildfires that we've seen all across the country. Thirdly, one that's very close to my heart is conservation. In 2011, our farm was fortunate enough to receive the National Environmental Stewardship Award from NCBA. We worked very hard to provide conservation here in the Chesapeake Bay area. Very important place to be providing these supports for farmers so that we can have a clean environment. We want a voluntary conservation program that recognizes what the producers have already done nationwide and will continue to do with your support. And we want to support implementation of these practices free from government mandates. We can do it. We're pretty good at this. We just need your help. Fourthly, and maybe the most important one I have to talk about, is protecting animal health through programs that guard against the spread of foreign animal diseases. This includes the support for programs like the National Animal Vaccine and Veterinary Countermeasure Bank. which currently houses the foot and mouth disease vaccine for U.S. producers. A very important bank, a very important program for us. We previously advocated for this bank, and livestock producers recognize the danger that a foreign animal disease poses to the industry and the nation in the protection that this food bank or that this vaccine bank provides. This legislation also saw the addition of the National Animal Disease Preparedness and Response Program. These programs allow for government entities to collaborate with animal health partners to implement projects that enhance prevention, preparedness, detection, and response to the most dangerous emerging and foreign animal diseases that threaten the United States. We support continued funding to these programs to make sure that the U.S. is ready to combat a foreign and animal disease outbreak. A foot and mouth disease outbreak would be particularly devastating to the cattle industry in the U.S. and the U.S. economy. With foot and mouth disease currently threatening countries in Southeast Asia, the need to invest in animal health continues to be what we see as a top priority for the 2023 Farm Bill. Finally, concerning the 2023 Farm Bill, we are not necessarily in favor of a livestock title. And remember, I represent a county that is one of the major counties producing livestock in this nation. A livestock title would open the door to unnecessary regulations and mandates that could cause difficulty in getting the Farm Bill passed. I would like to speak just one moment on the issue of climate change. I applaud Chairman Thompson for the position he's taken that farmers and ranchers are a major part of the solution of climate change argument while producing products that are necessary for the sustaining of America and its people. The beef cow is a natural, efficient method of using land that is not suitable for conventional crop products to produce a valuable protein. Cows take that land that's too something. It's too steep, it's too wet, it's too rocky, it's too something, and they naturally turn that into a valuable food product. Cattlemen can take blue sky and green grass and make red meat, a protein that really feeds the world. Thank you for your time and your attention. We value the fact that you are allowing us to have input into this conversation and look forward to further chances to have input.
Frank, thanks so much, and thanks for that equation. I love that. Blue sky and green grass equals red meat. You can count on the fact I'm probably going to use that a few times. On deck will be Aaron Young with the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association. And I'm very pleased now to welcome to the podium an individual who has been a great voice for agriculture, but specifically for the dairy and in her efforts. She is here representing the Pennsylvania Dairy Advisory Committee, Sherry Bunting.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman, distinguished members of Congress, farmers, colleagues, and friends, and thank you for this opportunity to make comments on the importance of the federal Farm Bill and for having this listening session. My name is Sherry Bunting, and for 40 years I have served as an agricultural journalist. Before that, I milked cows. I am a volunteer resource person with the Grassroots Pennsylvania Dairy Advisory Committee, which I'm representing today, and this Grassroots Committee works with the 97 Milk Education effort, which began when Berks County dairy farmer Nelson Troutman, who's here today, painted a round bale with the words, "Drink whole milk, 97% fat-free." Yes, our main effort is to bring back the simple choice of whole milk in schools. And we thank Congressman G.T. Thompson and the co-sponsors of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act in the last legislative session and hope to see it become a reality in the next session. We understand this does not fall within the Farm Bill. However, there are some intersections that I'd like to mention. The bottom line is we believe children should be able to choose nutrient-dense whole milk that they will enjoy and therefore actually consume in school meals and other USDA-funded nutrition programs. And we believe farmers should be free to offer children the quality product they actually produce. Under the nutrition education part of the nutrition title, we would support any indication of language that could exempt nutrient-dense foods like whole milk and others, we heard beef mentioned, from the arbitrary and outdated fat limits that are imposed by the dietary guidelines. We support a Farm Bill provision to untie the hands of the dairy checkoff program to come out from under these fat limits so that farmers can promote the nutrient-dense whole milk they produce. Milk contains 21 minerals and 13 vitamins, and of that, 13 essential nutrients, 4 that are nutrients of concern. And if children aren't able to drink it, they're not going, if they don't like it, they're not going to consume it. And kids do like whole milk, and 2% is not allowed either. Interestingly, our state lawmakers at the cafeteria where they have lunch can choose whole milk, but students who get 2 meals a day, 5 days a week, 3/4 of the year cannot because of these federal edicts. So additionally, the SNAP program is more open. There's no limits on sugary snacks, sodas, things can be purchased with 0 nutrients. So we kind of have a mixed message here. And so if we can just focus on nutrient density and make that important, I think Americans would benefit. Under dairy policy, because of these changes in the school lunch program over the past 10 to 12 years of only allowing fat-free and 1% milk, we've lost a generation of milk drinkers, and we've seen the most rapid period of decline in fluid milk consumption. So in the 2018 Farm Bill, there was a Class 1 pricing change made to help processors be able to better manage their risk, the fluid milk processors, so that they could invest in innovation. Unfortunately, this was supposed to be farmer neutral, but it was not. Over the past 4 years, farmers have lost an estimated $941 million, almost $1 billion, in Class 1 value. And actually, $264 million of that was in 2022, not related to the pandemic. Now, this does affect how risk management tools function, but more important than that, it is leading to a reduction in the number of processors or the amount of milk from the other manufacturers that make other products that can voluntarily participate in the federal milk marketing system. So only Class 1 has to participate. So right now, we're looking at 60% of US milk production participating in the federal milk marketing order system. It used to be 80% when you included California's state system, which now they're part of the federal system. In 2020, it was 70%. In 2021, it was 60%. And now for this year, we're at 60% year to date. So there's no other structure in place for price discovery, payment oversight, things like that. So I know it was mentioned that this Class 1 change in 2018 did not perform as expected, and to wait and have a federal order hearing on that, but that is too long to wait. And I think there's a consensus to change back to the higher of and hold national hearings to look at what the future might look at and really vet future proposals. So that would actually help farmers manage risk better as well. Our margin programs are super important. Crop insurance, very much appreciated. Revenue protection, livestock gross margin. There are tools available for producers to manage the risk, but they won't work properly if we don't have good price discovery and transparent pricing and competitive markets. Moving ahead, we see sustainability targets as the next sort of big consolidator, potentially. We have concerns about how methane is calculated and are concerned about an anti-cow bias that started with the anti-fat dietary guidelines. And if we look at, and I can provide more detailed information, but cows are part of a biogenic cycle. And as methane is produced, it is also destroyed in the atmosphere. So when herds of cattle are constant, we're looking at the recycling of that same methane as they're producing food and as it is converted to carbon in the atmosphere and then becomes absorbed by the plants that they will then eat. It's not the same as taking fossil fuels out of the ground and those emissions being additive. And the global warming potential formula that's being used right now for carbon equivalents on methane looks at them as though they're a plant, a fossil fuel plant that has like a pulse emission instead of being part of that cycle. So I would urge all of you to go to the CLEAR Center at UC Davis, Dr. Frank Mittlerner. He has several papers on this, so does Dr. Sarah Place, and Oxford University has a different method. So as we look to the sustainability and to conservation title in the Farm Bill, I think it's really important that they stay voluntary and that we give farmers a chance to shine as they have in the past and be able to get credit for what they're already doing, but also to get the science, have it be science-based and get the math correct. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Sherry, thank you so much. On deck will be Kia Hansard with the Harrisburg Center for Employment Opportunities. And now very pleased to welcome to the podium Aaron Young, here to represent the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association.
Chairman Thompson, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Aaron Young, and I'm the president and co-CEO of Tri-County Rural Electric Cooperative. Tri-County delivers electricity to nearly 17,000 members in 7 rural Pennsylvania counties across a service territory that encompasses 5,000 square miles. Additionally, I'm co-CEO of Tri-Co Connections, a fiber-to-the-home broadband internet provider owned by Tri-County Electric Cooperative. To date, Tri-County has built over 1,500 miles of fiber optic plant, allowing over 4,200 previously underserved rural Pennsylvanians to receive reliable high-speed internet and voice services. Access to high-speed internet has been truly life-changing for those members of our community. These are members that during the pandemic had no way to do remote education, no way to do remote work, and no way to do telehealth. Many of our members were driving to the local McDonald's to get access to internet during the pandemic, so it truly has been life-changing for those members, but there's still much more to do. Our goal is to continue to bridge the digital divide, ensuring that rural northwestern Pennsylvania families and businesses have access to the fastest and most reliable internet available. To ensure that no one is left behind, Tri-Co Connections, in partnership with the Potter County Education Council, has launched a digital literacy program titled Senior to Senior, where seniors in high school assist senior citizens with understanding technology and the internet. The story of broadband in rural America today is similar to the story of rural electrification back in the 1930s. Rural areas are hard to reach and expensive to serve. Electric cooperatives owned by the members that we serve are increasingly getting into the broadband business to provide these essential connections for everyday life. Without access to high-speed internet, people leave our rural communities and move elsewhere. The Farm Bill provides an opportunity to continue to support lasting, scalable, future-proof broadband network deployment in rural areas. To connect every rural home, business, and community with a reliable internet service, federal support programs should prioritize technologies and speeds that can meet the needs not only of today, but also of tomorrow. The Farm Bill also includes important tools for electric cooperatives to deliver affordable, reliable electric service to rural America and to foster rural economic development. USDA programs like the RUS Electric Loan Program, the Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program, the Rural Energy Savings Program, and the Rural Energy for America program are all critical programs for electric cooperatives around the country. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. As the committee considers the upcoming Farm Bill, electric cooperatives across the country look forward to working together with you in our shared goal of improving life in rural America. Thank you for the time.
Aaron, thank you so much, and congratulations on what Tri-County has really accomplished. I will say that's probably some of the most geographically challenging area there, and the fact that you've accomplished what you did shows that we can, given the right resources, we can bridge this digital divide. So congratulations to you and the entire team. So on deck will be Mike Deskowitz with Bell & Evans Chicken, and I'm really very pleased to welcome to the podium Kia Hansard from the Harrisburg Center for Employment Opportunities.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Thompson, members of Congress, and members of the audience. My name is Kia Hansard, and I am the Director of Center for Employment Opportunities, or CEO, located in Harrisburg. With 31 locations across 12 states, CEO is the nation's largest organization providing daily pay for daily training to justice-involved individuals facing the greatest barriers to employment. Thank you for the opportunity to relate the importance of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and SNAP employment and training for the 16,000 individuals released from prison each year in Pennsylvania, and the more than 600,000 individuals released nationally, many of whom possess nothing but the clothes on their back when they walk out. In that crucial time following their release, they're expected to reintegrate into society and obtain sustainable employment, which many assume is an easy task. However, research shows that 75% of people who have been incarcerated are persistently unemployed up to a year after their release. Once an individual reenters society, their likelihood of becoming a contributing member of their community is dependent upon whether they secure employment, find a place to live, and have the education and skills necessary to advance in life, which is why SNAP employment and training is very much needed. CEO is a SNAP ENT partner in all 12 of our states. We receive 50% reimbursement for the cost of providing employment training to SNAP participants enrolled in our program, which in Harrisburg is currently 80% of our participants. We provide transitional employment, advanced leadership training and credentialing, and support services to remove barriers to a job. Independent evaluations have shown that CEO participants' learning skills on a transitional job are 48% more likely to be employed 3 years following program completion compared to a group that received basic job training services. SNAP ENT is a set of activities ranging from providing work experience to retention services following a job placement. In the 2018 Farm Bill, Congress strengthened SNAP ENT by adding subsidized employment and apprenticeship as allowable SNAP and ENT activities, recognizing the evidence base of paid training that provides opportunity to gain work experience and skills that will lead to higher quality careers. In Pennsylvania, our ENT partnership with the Department of Human Services and reimbursement for participant wages under this SNAP ENT work-based learning has allowed CEO to expand our quality jobs access focus, offering commercial driver's license and information technology credential opportunities, which lead to higher wage employment. For the 2023 Farm Bill, CEO recommends the following. First, continue to invest in voluntary SNAP ENT and paid subsidized employment training opportunities. Jose, one of our most recent Philadelphia participants, related that SNAP was a critical tool that relieved stress and allowed him to purchase interview clothes while a participant at CEO. About half of our participants have no prior work experience to beginning training, and many face barriers to a job, such as a stigmatized conviction or long periods of prior incarceration. Yet, these individuals are motivated and valued potential members of our workforce. We encourage Congress to make sure each returning citizen has access to SNAP and SNAP ENT, including high-quality paid job training that leads to self-sufficiency. Second, and finally, disregard SNAP ENT training wages from SNAP eligibility to allow individuals to succeed and achieve independence. As the states work to implement the new ENT work-based learning program as Congress intended, an unintended consequence has arisen. Presently, income received from the ENT program for participants' time in work-based learning and training is being counted as income for the purposes of calculating SNAP eligibility, essentially significantly reducing their benefits or kicking individuals off SNAP because of receiving income from the SNAP ENT program itself. Participants are then faced with having to choose between obtaining the training and skills needed to ensure their long-term success or keeping the security of simply being able to feed themselves in the short term. Unfortunately, our office has lost several participants who chose the latter. Congress should use the next Farm Bill to incentivize employment and clarify that earnings from a short-term position in a SNAP ENT program is excluded from income calculations for the purposes of SNAP eligibility. This would enable participants to complete their training or work-based learning experience and transition to permanent employment and ultimately off of SNAP. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for what you and your colleagues do to really to serve those returning citizens, that put them on a better trajectory. Much appreciated. On deck will be Nikki Gorpaday with Ducks Unlimited, and now I'm really pleased. We're going from ducks to chicken. Mike Deskowich with Bell and Evans Chicken.
Yep, thank you, Chairman Thompson, Secretary Redding, members of Congress. My name is Mike Deskowitz. I'm the CEO for Bell and Evans. Our mission is to pioneer excellent food products through bold innovation with a common sense approach. As a fifth-generation family business, it redefines what sustainability means and innovation, but we're also America's oldest branded chicken company, the most modern in the U.S. and perhaps the world. Just over a year ago, in December, part of our quest for excellence, we've opened a new headquarters in Fredericksburg, Pennsylvania. It was recently named the 2022 Food Plant of the Year by Food Engineering for innovations and automations, high scores in all categories: team member welfare, animal welfare, food safety, product quality, and sustainability. Our new processing facility handles 100% of our chicken through harvest, 100% air chill, cut up, deboning, case packing, and shipping. At over 411,000 square feet, roughly the size of 7 football fields. It was built linear to minimize turns in production and maximize product quality and safety. As you consider the next Farm Bill, I would urge you to focus on current and future regulatory impact on innovation in the meat and poultry sector, as well as on small and medium producers like Bell and Evans. With all the discussion going on in Washington today about the need to expand small to medium-sized processing facilities and expand capacity, Bell and Evans is a perfect example of a company committed to investing in innovation and technology in order to meet consumer demand for our high-quality products, while simultaneously improving safety across the board. Yet the USDA has arbitrarily refused to provide adequate inspection resources for our new plant configuration. So we've not been able to operate our facility as designed. Arbitrary agency decisions like this have a significant and severe negative impact on innovation. Businesses like ours need collaboration with the federal government, and certainly with the expectation that regulation will keep up with innovations. We didn't seek federal grants or funding in our innovation, but we do have expectations that the government regulatory agencies will support, not restrict or limit, further innovation efforts to improve safety and quality. Thank you again for your time today. We appreciate the opportunity to engage with you here. I look forward to further engagement as you move forward in your bill discussions.
Mike, thank you so much. American agriculture, in my mind, can be defined by 3 words: science, technology, and innovation. And there's, I don't know if there's many processors like Bell and Evans that have made that commitment to make that investment. And quite frankly, the last people that should be resistant to science, technology, innovation, and agriculture should be USDA. So, all right. On deck will be David Graybill with the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau. And now I'm pleased to hear, welcome to the podium, Nikki Portaday with Ducks Unlimited.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From domestic fowl to waterfowl, so hopefully this will be good. First off, Mr. Chairman and members of Congress, I wanted to thank you all for your leadership in passing of the Sustains Act in the FY23 Omnibus, so thank you guys. I also want to thank you all for hosting this listening session today. My name is Nikki Gorpaday, and I'm the Government Affairs Manager for Ducks Unlimited. I cover state-level policy for all of the northeastern states with a particular focus on Pennsylvania. We're the world's largest wetlands and waterfowl conservation organization with over 1 million members continent-wide. In Pennsylvania alone, we have more than 16,000 members across this state, very highly dedicated, and I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to speak here on behalf of all of those members. And while I myself am not a Pennsylvania resident, I do each year buy my Pennsylvania hunting license because of the vast opportunities and quality land that the state affords its sportsmen and women. And the sporting success of the state is attributed in no small part to the innate conservation ethic that Pennsylvania farmers have. We are highly supportive of many of the Farm Bill programs here today that we've been talking about, and we are very proud of the work that we do with farmers and ranchers to continue to deliver conservation practices on the landscape. And we look forward to continuing working with you all to help implement and sustain our natural resources in rural communities in the upcoming Farm Bill. The conservation programs included in the Farm Bill are a key part of farmers and ranchers' plans to maximize on-farm efficiency and productivity, as well as maintain soil health, water quality, and wildlife habitat on their lands. Conservation is in high demand across the country, and specifically in the Chesapeake watershed where we are here today. We and our partners respectfully ask that you all and your colleagues on the committee continue to strengthen support for some of the most efficient and important programs that promote voluntary and incentive-based conservation programs in the Farm Bill, many of which the good gentleman from Lancaster had been talking about already. We really hope to see strong support for wetlands and grasslands protections in the upcoming Farm Bill. We support strong funding for extremely impactful working lands programs like the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, RCPP, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, EQIP, and the Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP. We also support a robust Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, ACEP. This is one of the most popular programs nationwide where demand far exceeds funding available. And lastly, we support an improved Conservation Reserve Program through expanded locally led efforts and projects that will help improve wildlife habitat nationwide. DU looks forward to working with you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, members of Congress that are here today, and you, Mr. Secretary, to help in not only writing the 2023 Farm Bill, but implementing it as well. And as the chairman had said very aptly at the beginning, that the Farm Bill is one of those things that touches every single family in this country, which means it will touch every single one of your constituents. And we as Ducks Unlimited and our partners are here today to assist in any way we can to help with that, with the writing of it, with implementation, and with promoting all the good work you guys are doing. So thank you very much. We really appreciate everything you all do for farmers, ranchers, and Mr. Chairman, for the state of Pennsylvania. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now, please welcome to the podium David Graybill with Pennsylvania Farm Bureau.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all congressional members here that are here today for allowing Pennsylvania Farm Bureau to speak at this Farm Bureau listing session hosted at the distinguished Pennsylvania Farm Show. Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, the state's largest general farm organization with over 30,000 members, represents farmers of every commodity and size. Every stakeholder at this table has a very important duty to maintain agriculture as the #1 industry in the state of Pennsylvania because our state's economy relies on that income. As we have this listing session today about Congress authorizing the 2023 Farm Bill, we should also be reminded that Pennsylvania is the only state with their own Farm Bill, which goes to show how important the agricultural industry is to the Commonwealth. PFB recognizes the 2023 Farm Bill as the most important piece of legislation for agriculture. In October, American Farm Bureau laid out their priorities for the 2023 Farm Bill, which PFB supports. Those include continuing the Farm Bill program Those included continuing the current Farm Bill program funding, maintaining a unified Farm Bill that includes nutrition programs and farm programs together, prioritizing risk management tools that include federal crop insurance and commodity programs, and ensuring adequate USDA staffing and resources to provide technical assistance. Every 5 years, Congress has the power to grow U.S. agriculture so that farmers, ranchers, and foresters have a viable and competitive industry for the next 5 years. However, we cannot be narrow-minded to think that the 2023 Farm Bill is going to impact just the next 5 years. Rather, it will determine if U.S. agriculture is an attractive industry for the young and prospective farmers, ranchers, and foresters in the future. Congress can look at the conservation title of the Farm Bill, Title II, to see if they are achieving sustainable agriculture. CRP, EQIP, CSP, ASEP are all programs aimed at preserving fertile farmland for years to come. Pennsylvania is proud to have over 180,000 acres in these conservation programs. In addition to Title II, PFB will be paying close attention to the Title I and Title 11 regarding dairy and crop insurance. In 2021, Pennsylvania dairy ranked second to Wisconsin in the number of operations by states, with 6,100 and generated 14.1 billion in total output. However, volatile markets, declining milk prices, increasing milk production worldwide, trade impacts, weather challenges, reduced consumption, and a global pandemic have led to significant challenges in the dairy industry. According to NASS, in 2021, Pennsylvania's top crops were corn, hay, soybeans, apples, and wheat. Our members rely heavily on crop insurance. In fact, there are 1.1 million crop insured acres, almost 700,000 in ARC and over 414,000 in PLC in Pennsylvania. This past growing season saw many of our crop farmer members with concerns, saying it would be difficult to break even due to the summer drought and the current record high inflation. Every person at this table understands that farming is a major risk, a risk that needs to be taken to keep people and animals fed. Congress can lessen the risk by authorizing a farm bill that gives our farmers crop insurance programs that they can rely on if external factors limit their ability to make a profit. I cannot end my comments without acknowledging the importance of Title IV, nutrition. There are 1.8 million individuals participating and 270,200 families using the nutrition programs authorized by the Farm Bill. This gives our agriculture producers another outlet for their products while feeding American families who do not have the income to purchase healthy foods. In closing, if the priorities mentioned are accomplished, food insecurity will decrease, national security will be improved, families across the world will be fed and clothed, and agricultural producers will be strengthened. PFB looks forward to working with Congress to achieve these priorities and pass a farm bill by September 30th, 2023. Thank you.
David, thank you so much, and thank you for the leadership of the Farm Bureau as well. Now, I'd like to offer my colleagues an opportunity to share a few closing thoughts. I know some folks have a flight to catch, so using what information I have of those who are have some flight deadlines here. So let's start with a senior member of senior Republican on the House Agriculture Committee, gentleman that sits at my side here today and in hearings, Mr. Austin Scott.
Thank you, GT, and thank you for sending GT to Washington, D.C. to represent agriculture. He is a great chairman. It's been my honor to sit at his side for a while, and if he gives me the privilege of chairing the General Farm Commodities and Risk Management Subcommittee, that's where I'll be working with you. I went to the University of Georgia. I majored in risk management, and as you know, we have a great land grant institution there, and I'll be working with their economists and your economists as we write this next farm bill. I want to mention to you that my goal in that capacity is to reduce the risk for our ag producers. I'm not in favor of anything that guarantees anybody a profit. I think that distorts markets. And like the gentleman from the Cattlemen Association, my grandfather wouldn't have wanted a livestock title either, because while we trust our University of Georgia research and extension professionals, we really don't necessarily trust the federal government to tell us how to run our operations. And I think most people feel that way in agriculture. One of the things that I think we have to look at is that the reference prices today for our commodities were basically set in the 2014 Farm Bill. And the cost of diesel, the cost of fertilizer, and other things that our inputs are totally different today than they were back then. The loan rate on corn today is $2.20 a bushel. That doesn't do anything at all for you. And so that's one of the areas where I want to start, is looking at what the reference prices are, what loan rates are, and perhaps using the Olympic averaging, 85% of the Olympic averaging, and pushing our loan rates towards that, which would help our farmers with cash flow and hopefully reduce the risk of production agriculture. Not saying it's perfect, but those are some of the things that we're going to be looking at. With that, GT, I do have a flight, but I appreciate you. I look forward to working with you, and man, God bless you. This is the greatest country in the world, isn't it?
Austin, thank you. So we're going to go from Georgia out to that other coast, California. And Congressman who has been serving as a ranking member of the Conservation, Forestry, Watersheds and Soil Subcommittee, Doug LaMalfa, for closing comments.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, your secretary for joining us here today. I'm pleased to be able to join with all of you. You have a fantastic farm show here, and it's certainly one that you don't go away hungry either from all the fantastic treats and tastes you have here today. And I got to admit that it gets a little tough when you eat kind of like that in the afternoon, especially on West Coast time. But man, it's pretty amazing. So I'm really pleased to be here. We need to emulate a little more like that in California. So what a great myriad of speakers and topics today too, as we try to be as educated as best as possible as we formulate the Farm Bill this year. And we need to get it done this year. We don't need to have delay and all that. And so we got some catching up to do on that. So thanks for giving us a little bit of a head start here with you folks. I come from Northern California, rice country there. Not many people know we grow rice there. Got 500,000 acres of that crop there. And so it's as well as the southern states, they grow a lot down there too. And my family's been doing that about 90 plus years where we are. So we figure we're sustainable, right? So, and that's a word that's used a lot these days when we hear agriculture needs to change, and of course we always adapt to new technology and incorporate that. But we have to incorporate it as we can afford it, as we can understand it, and as it makes sense to the growers. You can't just jump from one thing to another if it doesn't look like it's going to be sustainable fiscally. So, as Chairman Thompson said, I sit as the ranking member. I hope that becomes chairman of the committee, if so appointed here, on conservation and forestry. And so we work a lot on conservation programs and their viability. And a key component of that is that they always remain voluntary, as their new aspects of conservation are being looked at, geared towards climate and such, and that's fine. It has to remain voluntary though, and not become something that if you don't do it, then all of a sudden you're out on your own with regard to how federal interaction might be with you. And I want to also caution folks that, especially those right here that are from the dairy and cattlemen, you get vilified a lot on methane, right? And I hope you just stay strong and don't be pushed around on that too much, because you are a very strong and viable part of their overall landscape. We appreciate the grazing that goes on in our forested areas and helps to keep fire down in our forested areas. I see recently where they want to have a pilot program to see if cattle grazing helps suppress fire by getting rid of the grass and other materials. Like, well, I don't think we need a pilot program. I think intuitively we can tell they do a good job. You can see from where a fire stops when it hits the fence where it's been grazed. So I talk a lot about fire because we're always on fire in California during the summer and the fall. I had a fire in my district in 2021 that consumed 1 million acres, 1 million acres of forest land, including 2 towns. And so we're getting real sick of it. So a big focus on my subcommittee on forestry will be making sure U.S. Forest Service starts implementing at a more rapid and strong rate forest management that is going to make a difference for us. So getting back to, there's talk and pushing things in a direction more, dealing with climate change and agriculture. Be cautious with that as well. I like to relay the statistic that CO2 as a component of our atmosphere is 0.04% of our atmosphere. It's not 20, 30, or 40% like people believe when I ask them, and a growth from about 0.03. So if we're going to do headstands in this country to change all of our industry and agriculture because of the growth from 0.01% of CO2, we're going to find ourselves not producing anything in this country. We're already on a direction in this country of doing the most of any Western country or third world country of reducing or controlling carbon dioxide. And when you see the statistics on what one volcano, a volcano eruption does to produce CO2, it messes up years worth of work we've done by sitting like little hermits in our houses instead of driving around or something. So don't be too railroaded into doing all the climate stuff you're talked about, okay? We can do things well. We're always trying to improve better running engines, cleaner running diesel engines and stuff, but I'm just really, really concerned that all this idea of electrical conversion to everything, tractors, pickups, stoves now, you know. In California, they're banning, leaf blowers and lawn mowers that are gas powered. They even are banning gas powered generators. Now, I'm still trying to figure out what you plug a generator into if your power goes off, if you can't run it on gas. So anyway, I'm getting into trouble here, but just take everything you hear with a grain of salt and apply common sense to as you see it here, because there's a lot of common sense that comes from rural America and ag folks. Thank you. God bless you.
All right, Doug. Doug, I encourage you and Austin to head for the airport.
All right.
All right. And joining us, just elected in this recent cycle, a gentleman from Missouri, Congressman Mark Alford.
Thank you so much, Chairman Thompson. Good to see everyone. Folks, this is democracy in action. This is what I got elected to do, to be a listener. I've been in the television media business for 35 years, and as a lifelong conservative, I wanted to do something for my nation. I wanted to be a voice for our district, the 4th Congressional District of Missouri, previously held by Vicki Hartzer, who is on this prestigious committee. I'm hoping to follow her in her footsteps, being a representative, helping put together this farm bill for 2023. Because I think we all know that food security equals national security. And we all must take a part in providing that. I really think we have 4 goals in this: to make sure our farmers are protected, to make sure our citizens are fed, to make sure our children are healthy, and to make sure that we are all good stewards with God's creation. And I think if we have those 4 concepts in mind, that we can do great things with this farm bill. My specialty that I've honed over 35 years in the news media is to be a messenger. And I hope to do that, Chairman Thompson, on this committee, to help push forward the best farm bill that we can get for America. And I thank you for your time. And I thank everyone for being here today. I'm so impressed with the farm show and Pennsylvania Ag and your willingness to be here and to give us a sense of what's on your hearts, souls, and minds today. Thank you for this opportunity.
All right. Mark, thank you so much. We look forward to serving with you. Now I'm pleased to introduce a gentlelady from Maine for closing comments, and she and I are classmates. We came in together, and really proud to serve with her on the Agriculture Committee. Congresswoman Shelley Pingree.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much to everyone from Pennsylvania for welcoming all of us. Thank you to the chair for holding this first listening session and the great hospitality today. It's wonderful to go to an inside agricultural event in the middle of winter. Gets you thinking again. And we were extremely well fed, and we'll pay for that for days, I'm sure, just trying to work it all off. But really some delicious food and some wonderful people who took the time to talk to us about the commodities they work with, the animals they're producing, and everything else. And I'm very pleased to have our new chair. It is fun to serve with someone in my class. We've been on the Ag Committee for many years together, and I know he's going to do a wonderful job putting together the Farm Bill. So thanks for having us all here. I represent the state of Maine, and one of the great things about hearing from all of you today is we have a lot of similarities between our states. We're just a little bit smaller, 1.3 million people, but still an agricultural state. Dairy industry, vegetables, most forested state in the nation, and we grow wild blueberries, which you don't. But we have some wonderful crops there, and a lot of the same kinds of issues. We have a lot of small to medium-sized growers. We're not a big farm state. We have a lot of sustainable and regenerative growers, organic farmers, a lot of people interested in processing capacity, more slaughterhouses, more marketing ability. People very interested in our conservation programs, but wanting more technical assistance. I hear from farmers all the time who say, is it really worth filling out the form? It's too complicated, it needs to be easier, we need to streamline the process. So a lot of things that I've heard today, very similar. People very anxious to make sure we fund our conservation programs so that we can meet the need that's out there, particularly as we're looking into the future. We're a very rural state, so broadband is a big deal to us, and expanding broadband, making sure that's accessible to all of our communities and to farmers in the technical assistance that they need. Rural life is very much a part of how we live in Maine. Hunger issues as well, so we've heard a lot about that today, making sure people can access healthy fruits and vegetables, seeing food as part of medicine and really understanding healthy diets is critically important. And I work a lot on food waste and making sure that we reduce it at all levels and get the food to the people who need it. I spent a lot of time looking at the issues related to climate change. I've been a farmer much of my own life. I'm a certified organic farmer, grow fruits and vegetables, under greenhouses during the winter, both heated and unheated. And I'm in the agritourism business. We do farm to table in the summer and sell at a farm stand. So I know a lot about value added and about some of the concerns that we have, but also making sure we are really treating farmers as our partners in climate change. I wrote a bill called the Agricultural Resilience Act, and a lot of what it is respecting the fact that farmers are our best partners in soil health, in conservation, pasture-based livestock. I love the term as well, that you turn green grass and blue sky into red meat, because that's a really important way to look at it, making sure we do fund our conservation programs, helping farmers with renewable energy on their own farm to reduce costs, and really investing in the research that we need going into the future. But we're not going to do it unless we're working hand in hand with the farmers. And this Farm Bill is a great opportunity for all of us to be looking at that and working forward on that. So I think we have a great partnership. The Farm Bill is one of the really important bipartisan things that we do in Congress. It's one of the important things that we do that considers all the states, that looks at food and farming together. And we got to make sure that we keep that partnership together. So I'm just really pleased to be with all of you. It's been a great day. Sorry to have to head home, but thank you all for attending, and thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for bringing us all together.
Kelly, thanks for being here. And this gentleman, a colleague of mine, a good friend of mine from Pennsylvania, no stranger to Harrisburg, having served in Harrisburg for a very long time before he came to Congress. He served on the Agriculture Committee for a couple of years, and it was fun to work together. And now, we need agriculture advocates on all the committees, and so he's a great voice on his current committee assignments. Congressman Dwight Evans.
I'd like to thank you, GKT, for that introduction, because this is more than just him being the chairman. I consider a personal relationship. I've enjoyed the period that I've got to know GT. He has really taught me an awful lot. He's right. My first term, I got on the agriculture committee. I really loved that experience so much that I wanted to make sure I come back to that. I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, and as a result of that committee, we talk a lot about trade. Obviously, there's a direct connection between trade and what's taking place around the world. And when you talk about markets, markets are what farmers are looking for. They're not looking for giveaways, they're looking for opportunities. And I joined GT because of the work that he's doing. And I thank him for showing that leadership. Because my experience in negotiating the 20 Farm Bill was taught firsthand that we must understand that this is going to be needed by urban, suburban, and rural legislators. It's going to need everybody. We're all in this together. That's what I learned from GT. And you learn that from him because he has that type of personality, especially when he talks about those milkshakes to you. And one of the things that's most important is the SNAP program is the heart of the coalition. Because like the Farm Bill itself, the SNAP program is extremely important to all of us and recognizing moving things forward. But it is that kind of effort of working together. And I appreciate, GT, you allowing this time and opportunity to be with you. And to have the head of the Pennsylvania Agriculture with us. So that's you again. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Dwight. Thanks for kind words. Now, please, we'll just keep with that Keystone State theme and yield to another colleague from Pennsylvania who just recently, within the past couple of days, found a position on the Financial Services Committee. Real proud of him and the services he'll provide working as a part of the Pennsylvania team. Congressman Dan Meuser.
Thanks, everybody. Well, thank you, Chairman. Certainly nice to be able to call you that. I want to thank my colleagues from coming from all over the country to attend this and Philadelphia. To experience the Pennsylvania Farm Show and really get an understanding of how important agriculture is to us and how well we do it. Also, just want to thank all of you. We took a lot of notes up here, listening to the various factors and interests and values and priorities of this industry for Pennsylvania. So it was highly informative. It was really terrific. And what's great is, too, you know, I've been a member now 4 years. Now we're heading into my third term, and I did serve in the Pennsylvania Cabinet as Revenue Secretary for 4 years and been in private business as well. But how many of you I know? And I think that's a testimony to our delegation, both Republicans and Democrats, as to how important, again, agriculture is very much on the federal level. Now, some of the things that we heard, not to run through the full list, but the importance of regulations and at the same time being environmentally friendly, from the Chesapeake Bay to WOTUS to ESG mandates, et cetera. Workforce. I know I've visited Georgie Farms, mushrooms, and many of your other farms, and the significance of our workforce challenges, which we need to address. And I think that's a bipartisan basis. Broadband. Incredibly important to so much of the T or even my more expanded district. Energy, how it relates to inflation, how it relates to our natural gas drilling, insurance, trade, certainly the list goes on. Dairy, we are all very aware of the demands and challenges there. And access to capital, banking and such. And I do think it being on financial services now, I'll be able to work for Pennsylvania, small businesses, and certainly farmers on that committee as well. But, you know, what it really comes down to in the end is what we do to make all the products that we do here in Pennsylvania affordable, plentiful, and healthy, right? I mean, that's certainly what we want to do. I mean, in my district, chicken, for instance, right? I mean, we know how prevalent the chicken industry is throughout the country, but in Pennsylvania, we've got a company, no offense to other chicken growers, but Bell & Evans. There is not a better chicken to eat or chicken produced in the United States, I firmly believe. And I did take a tour of their plant and the innovations and care that goes into producing really the best quality, nutritious chicken on the market. By the way, at our club in Washington, D.C., please tell Scott I get to eat Bell & Evans chicken very, very often, Joe. But, the list goes down of all the things that we do very, very well here in Pennsylvania. We do need to feed the world. We need to start with our country and feed all those that are hungry. And I also want to echo what my colleague Dwight said about the SNAP program, how essential it is. Because none of us, this is the agricultural industry. None of us ever want to hear about anyone, certainly in the United States or worldwide, going hungry, especially young people. So we all got to be on board there, and I think we will. I don't like hearing that that's perhaps becoming even more of a challenge, but we're going to work on it. So thank you all very much for being here. Thanks again, Chairman.
Dan, thank you so much. Now, please recognize for some comments, a member of the Agriculture Committee. As I did my past 2 years, I've done a perpetual barnstorming tour of American agriculture to really learn and to hear, to bring those voices back. And when I was in Illinois, I was proud to be joined by Congresswoman Miller and her husband, who's a state legislator in the state of Illinois. And so pleased to yield the floor to Congresswoman Miller.
Thank you, Chairman. I've thoroughly enjoyed this day, getting to know some of you, the listening session, and definitely the food. It was a first for me. I'm 63 years old, and it's the first time I've ever eaten a donut and a milkshake for breakfast. So,
welcome to Pennsylvania.
So I'm starting my second term. It's been an honor to serve on the Ag Committee. I come from Illinois is a top producer and processor of food and agriculture products. My husband and I are farmers. We raise corn, cattle, and kids. We raise 7 children, and just to let you know, they're all adults that are thin and healthy, and they grew up on whole milk. So we got to bring that whole milk back. I'm in agreement with a lot of the things that have been said. I don't think I need to repeat it. I'm looking forward to working on a farm bill that works for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. And a gentleman that I sincerely hope will be a part of the Agriculture Committee as I work with the steering committee to populate that committee on Monday evening. And an American hero himself, former Navy SEAL and a patriot, and a great new member of Congress from the state of Wisconsin, Derrick Van Orden.
All right. Hey, first of all, I think I need to be real honest with you guys. You have cheese cubes here, and in Wisconsin we have cheese curds. And I represent Ellsworth, Wisconsin, which is the cheese curd capital of the world, which in fact makes it the cheese curd capital of the universe. So I'm looking forward to getting on this committee and being GT's cheese king of Congress. So that is my focus on dairy. I've gotten around my district. We are predominantly a ag district where I'm at. Talking about rural development stuff, broadband is a huge issue with us. The infrastructure in order to get things to the fields, to a processing facility, and then out to the commercial market is incredibly important. I know that we're generally underserved in the rural communities. The milk, couple things. Milk comes from a mammal, does not come from a nut. So let's make sure that's real clear with everybody. Work on that. Thank you. We do have to reset our baselines. So our milk market order system, the dairy management protection program, all those things they were set back years ago and they need to be updated. Crop insurance is incredibly important for our markets. We understand that, especially for some of like the peach trees that you're talking about. You can't redo those. It's a single crop. And then, ma'am, I also want to make sure that you understand this. I was raised in abject rural poverty by a single mother. Now, I was never incarcerated, thank God, but these people need to be reintegrated into society. So that portion of the SNAP program needs to be focused on also. And with that, I'm really looking forward to getting on this committee and working for the chairman. And God bless you guys and have a wonderful day. And thank you for the milkshake.
Hey, Derrick, thank you. Thank you. And certainly last but certainly not least, really honored to introduce a gentleman who has worked in the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture under 4 governors. makes you really old, you know? Russell Redding.
I'll take that as a compliment.
That's a compliment.
GT, yeah, thank you. Let's begin with just a note of thanks to the new chairman and give him a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. Listen, I think over the 2-hour span, I mean, we've touched all of these critical elements, and the statement was made. It touches the lives of everybody in America, and it does, right? In so many different ways, and you realize that ag is at the intersection of some of the most important issues of our time. Right? It's about a workforce and nutrition and the environment and jobs and quality of life, and all of that has to be captured inside of these farm bills. But you also understand it's both rural and urban. It's west and east, and all these pieces have to fit together. So really proud of having the chairman, to have committee members, members of Congress here. Our PA delegation, I've worked with them over time. I know well that they have this sensitivity to finding this equilibrium. That's so challenging sometimes between the politics and the issues and the regions and budgets, but also understanding that this bill is also critically important to how we feed people. It is critically important to equity and civility. All of these things are embodied in making sure that we protect animal ag. I mean, we've had this horrible experience the last year on high path AI, some of the other states, right? It's the reminder of those are critically important. Finding this link between, farmers and consumers, and making sure that our, food system, you can't have a charitable food system without a food system that's charitable. It can't, and that's found inside of our farm bill. And I'll just end with, we have a theme of rooted in progress as part of this farm show. And there's probably not a better backdrop than, agriculture generally, but also this farm bill of being rooted in progress. Each one of these is built in the progress of the last one. And keep making the changes and improvements and capturing, what we heard today is tweaking but also sensitivity to those things that are really at the very, very heart of what we have in our country of agriculture, the most honorable professions, and critically important to the quality of life in our nation. That is there, right? So you do that, you're going to chair that, we'll work our way through that, but a real honor to have you here. Thank you all for being with us. The final point is what you have shared with the committee and those here are also things that in the state are important, right? So as I listen to you, there are things that I find where we need to be thinking, right, about nutrition, conservation, and research and investments. So it has the value. It has a dual purpose of both the federal farm bill, but also our state interests here about how we move forward with Governor-elect Shapiro, and looking forward to that conversation as we navigate both a state farm bill and a federal farm bill. So GT, thank you, and congratulations to you.
Secretary, thank you. Thank you to you, and thank you to your team. What happens across the street here at the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, and obviously what has happened here this past 8 days, or what will be 8 days tomorrow, with the 107th Pennsylvania Farm Show. One of the things you mentioned, our governor-elect, I've really appreciated the phone call from Governor-elect Shapiro calling to congratulate me, and the beauty of caller ID, I knew it was him, even though he's using his personal cell phone, and a chance to congratulate him on a great campaign and election, and serving in the seat, and we have talked extensively, and we have done texting back and forth all about Pennsylvania's #1 industry. That's why I was privileged to get a little inside information. I wasn't allowed to swear to secrecy that you had agreed to stay on. And so I do look forward, our team, working with Governor-elect Shapiro and on behalf of rural Pennsylvania and every Pennsylvania when it comes to our #1 industry here. Thank you to our witnesses. Great job. I got to tell you, I need I need you to train some of the witnesses we have that come to Washington, because it's kind of tough sometimes, and you all kept us on schedule and outstanding information. I know you've all, probably most of you have also submitted some more lengthier remarks and comments, and those are welcome. Those are very much appreciated. Thank you to all those attending. This is it's a pretty amazing turnout, actually, and thank you for that interest, and thank you to my colleagues. We've had some couple long weeks here, and the fact that you all came and you're all troopers. Yeah, I did bring well, I'd have brought mushrooms for breakfast, but I didn't do it. I brought donuts and milkshakes, and I don't have any lightweights here. They waded right into them, so I was pleased to see that. That was actually a test. So, and you all passed. We need you, all of you. Not just those who witnessed today, but everyone in attendance at the table for the 2023 Farm Bill. That's the only way we get it right, by having your voice, your perspective, your experiences. And so if you didn't get a chance to testify today, you still have an incredible opportunity to make a difference and to provide input. American agriculture is science, technology, and innovation. I mentioned that before. That's the three words I use to define it. One of the things that we are doing, or I am doing, is emphasizing into each of the 6 subcommittee jurisdictions science, technology, and innovation. That's looking over the horizon. That's not just looking at agriculture as it occurs in the United States of America in 2023. That's looking over the horizon of what agriculture can be, the opportunities if we take the right measures and the right process. And so I'm really excited about that. What did we hear about today? And this is not an exhaustive list. I just ran out of room on the paper. This is crop insurance, the need for a qualified and trained workforce, the role of innovation with what we do, and that applies in all aspects of production, processing, quite frankly, consumption. How we package, how we produce, how we put it out there for consumers. The inflationary impact right now, which is just hurting us. And inflation goes up quickly and comes down slowly. And so as we work on the 2023 Farm Bill, that's one of our realities. It's going to linger. Crop prices go up slowly and they come down quickly. Unlike the costs, and so that's a reality. That's sort of the realities that we have to work with as we look at this 2023 Farm Bill. The importance of helping neighbors in need, whether they were incarcerated, whether they made a bad decision in life, or whether just bad luck and they've lost their job. To me, that's a rural value of neighbors helping neighbors in need, and that's a lot. That's Title IV. That's the nutrition title. Now, we need to make sure that we have program integrity, that we're being innovative, and that we're moving people to financial independence, realizing the American dream, those folks who need those services. And that's why we've had probably for decades, I guess, the education and training component to SNAP. We also are encouraging we need governors who will fully utilize that part of that Title IV. Because they're important partners with the nutrition title. One Health, animal health, well, we'll put people on top, I guess. That'd probably be good. People, animals, plants, and soil. It's all connected, and that's the research. This is an industry that is not static, it's dynamic. And it will change, and we'll find innovations through great research, agricultural institutions, and working with commodity groups, with the public-private partnerships, and then and obviously utilities like broadband connectivity, which really gives rural America a fair fight, gives us an opportunity to achieve at least my vision that I put out there for the Agriculture Committee and with this Farm Bill and beyond, and that is to restore a robust rural economy and begin to grow our rural population again to be able to support what we need to do. And so I encourage all of you to, you've all been at the table today when it comes to 2023 Farm Bill, and I encourage you to stay at the table. You don't want us writing this Farm Bill listening to just the voices inside the Beltway of Washington. It would not work out well.
in the end. We need your voices at the table, and we need your experience as we write the 2023 Farm Bill. Once again, a reminder, there's printed forms out there, and there's these QR codes that can link you. We welcome whatever type of written testimony you would like to submit would be welcome. And with that, that ends our very first listening tour for the 2023 Farm Bill. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here.